Welcome to the Dylan Teaches Finance podcast. Today we have a very funny writer and podcast host, Mark Rennie, as our guest. Mark's going to tell us about how he used to spend a terrific amount of money on Blu-Ray DVDs and how just using one Post-it note stuck to his computer saved him thousands. No exaggeration, thousands. And for his upcoming 50th birthday vacation, we're going to build a travel budget with him. I love building budgets. He wants to spend no more than $3,000, so we're going to make sure he can stay within that number and have a ridiculously good time. You know, Mark was one of my first clients years ago, so it's a real treat to know he's still saving and having fun and only buying the 4K DVDs he really loves. You can check out more of Mark on his podcast, Big Gay Movie Spreadsheet. It's hilarious and it's on Patreon. Now let's bring you that conversation. Mark, I'll ask the question then. How did you, you're an adult, you're not a child, but as a child, how did you learn about money?
That's none of your business. I learned it from, I suppose, watching my parents, who are very responsible with money. Both my parents are.
How was that reflected? Like, why do you say they're responsible?
Well, I just remember my mom was the one who would balance the checkbook, and they aren't like big flashy spenders or anything. You know what I mean? They'll like invest and like get a good car, you know, but they're not like, we didn't get a VCR until it was well into the mid 80s. Later 80s. So they're not like, because they were like, why do we need a VCR? We have cable. We have HBO. Why do you need a VCR? We get the movies straight to our home.
So you were a kid who wanted the VCR. You wanted the more things, and your parents were like, lay down the law.
Yeah. They said, no. And then we did get a VCR in like 1988 or something.
What do you remember one of the first movies you got on that VCR?
We got Top Gun and 2001.
Ooh. Those still
feature.
hold up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I like 2001 more.
Do you feel like you still are those feelings of like responsibility are ingrained of you, or did they not matter at all?
No, because it didn't matter. I'd never thought about money until I got like a part-time job when I had like my own money. Because then I was like a kid and I would just spend every dollar I had on like, you know, I would buy every CD I want, you know what I mean? I would just buy CDs, books, everything, I would just overspend and then get in a pinch. Like I can't afford money for my car payment or whatever. Then I have to ask my parents for help, and they always would because they're nice. But I got into that cycle of overspending and needing parents to bail me out. And then it turns out like, it took me a long time to realize I hate this. I like, you know what I mean? I feel like, you know, you get used to a certain way of navigating your life. And then, it took me a while until like I had like, I don't know, I feel like maybe 10 years ago. I guess, when did we first start talking?
Ooh, about 10 years ago.
Wasn't I your first client?
You were one of my first clients, Mark.
One of them. Oh.
Yeah, one of the first.
I was going around telling everybody I was your first client. You wouldn't be
that's
nowhere
fine.
without me.
You were a great friend, great client, and It's interesting. Yeah, you made that change because I was going to ask what made you stop going through that cycle. You don't have to
somehow getting Dylan Snowden and his wonderful financial services, which everyone should check. Check out Dylan Teaches Fine. Oh, remember when you were going with your email said DTF? And I'm the one who had to tell you, Dylan, you know what that stands for. And you didn't believe me for the longest time.
Well, then I Googled it, and I should have trusted you. Yeah.
I always felt like, because I never had like a lot of money. I just had like part-time jobs or like was going to school, you know, like barely making ends meet. But still somehow it felt like, well, I don't have enough to save, so why bother? I kind of felt like. But then I finally got like a real, like a day job. And then just making more money enabled me to save for whatever reason. I don't know why that psychology switched. Just making more made it easier to save for some reason.
What was that day job that triggered that for you?
It was probably
bookstore.
No, it was probably I had a job at a website that has now laid me off, but I worked there for like 3.5 years. It was probably having that job. This is all fairly. It took me a long time to get my head around saving and not overspending and stuff. But it's a fairly recent development, and it's one that I'm glad I finally learned.
What do you save for? How do you save? Because also that's like a thing that you didn't have.
I think you're the one who told me about Capital. You're nodding. Yes.
Yes.
So that just takes a little bit. And we didn't have that. I think I told you this we didn't have that in the 90s and the 2000s. We didn't have it's easier to save now. Like you could just do it in an app. You set it like 5% of every income, every deposit just automatically gets saved. I think I might have bumped it up to 7.5%, maybe. I know, pretty cool. But it's just invisible. That way you don't even miss it. As opposed to like before when I had to save like, oh, I got to put 10% of my paycheck in. So I have to go to the bank. I have to do a deposit slip. I have to, and like, I wasn't going to do that. I was like, or I'll do it later. And you just never get around to doing it, but it makes it seamless so you don't miss it. And it's nice having that, knowing there's like you're growing a little like safety cushion, like in case your like car explodes or something, Is that
what you save for? Car explosions?
I like having what I name my capital account FU money.
Good. Yeah.
Because you need to have, I figure that's like, you need 3 months worth of expenses. Is that, I consider that FU money.
I think that's great.
Enough money for you to able to be said, fuck all. Are we allowed to swear on this?
Yes. Mostly swear. Yeah.
Okay. This is the world's filthiest financial advice channel. Jim Cramer's a pussycat compared to Dylan Soda. What was the question?
How do you... I forgot too.
What am I saving for?
Yeah. Yeah, because you said 3 months living expenses is a goal.
There's that, but I also like a more recent goal. And like this, when I was like, I was a creative type of like, well, I got to keep my schedule open for meetings that never happened. Or auditions that never come through. So I'm like, I hated the hustle of just having to have like 3 different jobs, working like, you're not working 8 hours a day, but you're working like, you have a job or something to do 6 to 7 days of the week. So you don't ever really get a day off. Even if you're just like teaching 3 hours one day, that's still like, there's a 5-hour window on each side of travel and just like getting ready. So that's, and you felt guilty anytime you did take a day off and like just did nothing. Because whenever I was in that, I was like, well, I have to do all my free time has to go to like writing a script or coming up with an idea that will like change my life and like get me out of my current financial situation. And I personally cannot, like, that is not a good pressure for me. That is not helpful for me. That just makes me stressed.
Yeah.
So getting a day job allowed me to like, oh, well, now when I do have free time, I'm like more likely to make use of it. I've been able to get more creative side projects done since I had a day job than at any other time. So I think I do think there's like some creatives have like a certain sense of like maybe shame around having like a job that's maybe not even in the industry, quote unquote. But I think it's like, for me, it was like one of the best things I could have done.
But you talked about something I want to explain, because you talked about capital, which is spelled with a Q. That's why we say Capital.
Do we say that?
People, well, the comedy folks.
They all say it? It's not just me?
It's just you, Mark. It's just you. You're singularly on that joke.
Give me this. I need this.
But that's just to let listeners know, it's an app. I don't get any money from them. This isn't me pitching them. They don't give me $1.
Why don't you come up with your own
app?
Yeah, your own savings app.
Yeah, because you have to have a federally insured bank, and then I don't have that attached. Okay. I don't. I could just take it. No. It's an app. You transfer your money in there, and you say, what is the goal of this money? What is the purpose? So for a lot of people, like Mark was saying, yours is emergency fund, a little bit like that FU fund. People call it like an oh shit fund as well. Like savings. Wait, so when you think of the FU, let me keep explaining it. But you also maybe have savings for a car, either to get a new car or car maintenance. Some people do a vacation fund. So then you know how much you have money. You know what money is for each of them. So you don't think like, oh, I have $5,000. It's emergency, car, and vacation. But then you really look at it. It's like, well, I have 1,000 for vacation, 2 for car, and 2 for emergency. Like, oh, you know how much you need to add to it, right? So it gives you that visibility. And you transfer, and you also have a great setting where you can say set it and forget it, or you just put a certain amount or a percentage of every paycheck. Because I have people who will say every first of the month they put $200 towards each of them, and they don't even think about it.
Yeah,
they're just like, oh yeah, all that money, and then they look at it after 6 months. They're like, oh my god, I got $7,000. I didn't even know. Don't do that math, but yeah, something like that.
Great.
Yeah. You froze for a second there. I thought you were having a medical issue. Okay, so you save for that. When you think of your FU fund, what is that money for? Like, how would you literally use it?
I guess I'm thankful I haven't had to, but I always just think it's in case, like, I don't know, like, what if I live on a busy street. What if a car drives into my living room? What if a car crashes into my apartment? I don't know. Just like, what if I need a new place to live at the drop of a hat, or I need to I need to do something on the car, or anything. It just, anything, just any emergency, because you don't know. Life is what life is going to throw at you.
That's right. I think it's really good. I think gives you that option to whatever happens, but you're also like saving for a vacation. Can you tell me what you're saving for on the vacation side?
Oh, I don't know yet, because next year, 2025 is going to be my 50th birthday. So I want to do something. Thank you. So I want to go somewhere. I want to do something. I did a cruise a year ago. So I really like a cruise.
What kind of cruise? Can you tell the audience what kind of cruise it was?
It was the Star Trek cruise. It was an 8-day cruise to Mexico, but it was Star Trek cruise. It was a Star Trek theme.
What were there? Star Trekians there? Actual stars?
Yeah, William Shatner was there. Pretty much almost anyone you could imagine in Star Trek was there, walking around. And there was a theme party every night. It was great. I didn't dress up, though. You don't have to dress. I'm not really into dressing up, but I love people watching, so it was a good setup. Did
you meet anybody you were excited to meet?
Like a celebrity person?
Yeah, I guess a celebrity or like a Vulcan.
No, I wasn't I'm not that excited about celebrities, but it was like, we did stand in line for like some quick photos where you're like literally like herded like cattle, like, all right, next 4, come on. It's Marina Sirtis. Come on, sit next to her. Yeah, she's Troy. Come on. All right, go. Got the picture? Great. Go, okay, no, next. It's just like that kind of, there's no time. You're just like, a cow in a chute.
Yes. Can I ask how much does an 8-day Star Trek all expenses
you're paying a premium for the theming.
Yes.
I think it was like $4,000
for 8 days.
Yeah, which I thought was pretty good. And I had a cabin to myself
Yeah.
with a window. It included the drink package.
Yeah.
But also the whole time on the cruise ship, I'm like, should we be doing this? Like, is this ethical? Like, this seems like such like a waste of like all of these resources just so we can have a bunch of like nerds having a espresso martinis in the middle of the ocean. You know what I mean, though? It's just like,
that's a big question. Yeah.
So I am kind of two minds about cruises, but it's great. But should we be doing it? But it's great.
Yeah. You have to take in
what
some
I wrestle with. Yeah.
Would you do it again?
Probably not a Star Trek one, because it is like a big chunk of change. I would do the Star Trek one again in like 5 years, maybe, but I'd do another cruise. Here's the other thing about the Star Trek cruise. There's no kids. And that's great. The difference of no children at a pool between a pool with children, it's night and day. Once you've been to a pool with no children, you'll never want to go back. So if I do another cruise, it's going to be a no kids cruise.
So next year, big 5-0, not a Star Trek cruise. But do you have an amount you're trying to save? You're like, okay, I think I need this much to have
like maybe like $3,000, maybe.
Okay.
I think that's a decent week-long vacation, probably.
Do you tell?
So that's a lot. I also don't want to. I'm now of the mindset of like when I go on a vacation. I used to like be like, oh, we'll book the room or whatever, but do everything on the cheapest you could get. But now I'm like, well, if you're going to do a vacation, do it right. Just spend an extra like $50 on an upgrade. Like, are you going to miss it a year later? No, but you know what I mean. I don't know if this is if you hate hearing this.
No, I
think
agree.
if you've made the decision to pay for a vacation, it's okay to make it a nice vacation.
I think that's what happens to everybody. Can I tell you what I see and what I think? It's like we'll talk about vacations beforehand or think about it and be like, okay, I'm not in Europe. I'm just going to eat a lot of croissants and I'm going to keep it very bare bones. But when you're in Paris, you want the good meals because you don't know when you're going to be in Paris again. You don't know when you're going to see Counselor Deanna Troi on a Star Trek.
Right. So maybe just like a good way. I hadn't thought of the budget first, so I'm glad you brought that up because I hadn't even considered that. But I think that's good because then it's like, well, how can I get the maximum amount of relaxation and food and drink and experience out of this money in the maximum amount of days? So like, it's just like choosing the like destination, I suppose, because maybe it's not a cruise, maybe it's like an all-inclusive resort somewhere.
Yeah. This is going to be new. We want to try something new for the podcast?
Sure.
Do you want to build a travel budget together for this vacation?
If that's what you want to do.
I'd love to. All right, I'm going to share the screen. And I'm going to ask Will, our producer, can I share the screen? Do you feel like that'll work on YouTube? Because we haven't done it yet. Yeah.
Wow, we got permission. Do it.
Can everybody see this?
Oh, you already had this whipped up.
I've got my keyboard and computer, so I'm always looking at budgets, always ready. All right. So you can get this from me as well if you want a copy of it. But I call this a guilt-free travel budget because a lot of times when people don't plan beforehand, they feel bad when they get the nice dinners or the nice experiences during it. And I feel like you should feel great. And the way to do that is say, like, honestly, a month or two before the trip, how much is it going to cost? Then you can also say, how much do you really value it? And be like, clear mind, being like, okay, I do want to do that.
It's also the last thing I want to do when I'm actually on vacation. Actually don't want to worry about money. I don't want to think about how am I spending too much. You just want to be able to like have fun and relax and follow the fun and not worry about it.
Yeah. So you should feel good. This is what my goal is for a vacation. You should feel good planning for it. You should feel great during, and you should feel awesome afterwards and no regret attached to it. And I think being honest, and I've done this with clients, and then you can see here's the categories we spend money on. We're going to try to budget it. And then you put the actuals. You say literally, this is how much it did cost. So you can see how good you are predicting. And you get better and better. And you're like, oh yeah, I do know that I'm going to go to dinners more often. I do know that I'm going to go on these buses or trains or flights.
This Excel sheet would work great in an app, Dylan.
I know. A banking plus Excel app is what we're building thus far.
Are you really building an app?
No, I can't. Who has time to build apps? Apps are so
idiots
hard,
are building apps every day. Morons are building apps.
That's
how hard
true.
can it be?
That's the bar.
Just get some intern and exploit them.
Okay. that is what Dylan teaches finance. It's all about
exploiting
helping
the
capitalists
underclass.
Exploitation.
Yeah. Do you think it's unethical for there to be a billionaire financial advisor?
Is there a billionaire financial advisor?
I bet that guy, the I Will Teach You Rich guy, he sounds very wealthy.
Ramit, he's doing well. I don't know what he does with his money. That's a great question, and maybe that's a question we could ask him at some point.
Are you going to have him on?
Who knows, Mark? Who knows? I don't know how ethical it is to be a billionaire.
I don't think it is.
That far. Yeah. I think there's enough people out there that could use that money. And I don't know if people need that much money.
Why isn't $999 million enough?
Yeah, that's the bar. That's really where we're going to set it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Talking about bars, let's set some bars for what you want out of this trip. So we're going to go through these categories here. And then I'll just say one thing I'm going to add. I think there's a little special thing about this. We add 15% because there's that 15% unknown. So we have a total, but we're going to add another 15% because stuff happens, right, Mark Rennie?
Maybe I need to get a tattoo.
And you didn't know it was going to be a tattoo vacation.
Yeah, I didn't know inspiration was going to strike.
Do you have a Disneyland tattoo by any chance?
How dare you? I do.
What is it? If you feel comfortable sharing it.
Sure. Is this
I love it.
Should I show it?
If you can show it, yeah.
I can. Well, it's kind of a weird angle. It's a weird angle.
That is not a video-friendly podcast location. There we go. That's it.
It's the goat from Big Thunder Mountain Railroad with a stick of dynamite in its mouth.
And it does. That's the thing the goat has.
And it does.
Yeah. Yeah, because you love.
I am going to
talking about
Palm
Disneyland.
Springs in like a few weeks, and I'm thinking, do I get a tattoo? Because I've had quite a year, so I'm thinking like maybe I need. I'm thinking, maybe now is the time to get a new one. We'll see. I don't know.
think that's exciting.
But I'm not one of those who like I'm going to get one just to get one. I have to have the idea of what I want to get first.
Yeah,
and I don't.
You're ready for inspiration. You're opening
I'm
the
ready
window
for
for it to come
inspiration.
inside. Yeah,
I think. Yeah, you're right.
yeah. Do you want to budget then for Palm Springs, or do you want to budget for 2025 extravaganza? What would be the most helpful to you?
Probably 2025 extravaganza.
Let's do 2025. Okay. And you don't have to have the exact place where you're going, but
Okay.
like if you want to visit, I'm in Northern California. Let's say if you want to visit with us and stay with us, you can
For
do
my
that for your
50th birthday.
Then the whole weekend with my 2 and 4-year-old at our pool. I know you love kids and pools.
I love kids and pools. They just
have a
make
little
it
kiddie
so
pool.
relaxing.
Okay.
Finally, the soft sound of children screaming. It goes great with this margarita. And then you feel guilty for having a margarita in front of kids. Get out of here.
I don't think they know what it is. I don't think you have to be guilty. It's because you're not sharing.
Because I'm not sharing.
All right, let's plan it. And sometimes I'll say when I do this with clients, we know where we're going, but we don't need to know because we also have a limit. You say like you want to be around 3,000. So let's see where you want to put that 3K.
I think so.
First, let's do these categories which are most applicable. And if we can't answer them now, we don't have to. What do you think you would go on hotels?
Probably like 200 a night.
200 a night. How many nights?
I don't know. Let's say 3.
3 nights. Okay, let's start there. Okay. Are you flying there, Mark Rennie?
Yes, we'll say yes.
Ooh, how far? New Orleans?
No.
Cape Cod?
It'll probably let's say it's probably be a 500. How much are flights now? $500 on average?
If you're staying
within
in the,
the
US,
continental.
I bet if you bought it early, you could do
We'll
a
stay in the
500 round trip.
continental. We'll stay in the continental. We'll say.
All right.
Maybe it's
Are you
Hawaii.
Ooh. Okay.
Heard of
You might
it?
want to bump up that hotel number then. Unless if you want to be real, unless you're going off season, which I don't know when it is for Hawaii. It seems
Yeah,
like
when
it's always
isn't it?
magical.
Isn't it always season
It's always magical. It's hot. A lot of people don't know that sometimes it does get warm there.
at the beach? Sure does.
Yes. Yeah. Uber taxi parking, because you got to get to that airport and you might not rent a car.
I feel like I don't know. $100? I don't know.
Let's put 100.
It's probably 200.
Okay.
Round trip.
Good. You give
Is
it a
that
little
crazy?
more thought. Yeah. Wheels are turning. Are you going to rent a car? Do you rent cars on vacations, Mark Rennie?
I haven't in the past.
No. So you're not going to probably buy any gasoline as like a souvenir.
Well, it depends how the service is at the hotel.
Go to Texas. They're known for their
I'm
gasoline.
waiting on my grilled cheese.
Restaurants. How much? So you've talked about it to me personally, or like one of the ways you've spent money in the past, which you've cut back on, is outdoors spending on restaurants.
Yeah.
And indoor restaurants, I guess, too.
Yeah. Outdoors, indoors, I'll eat at them all.
When you go on vacation, though, how many times do you eat out versus like cooking at your Airbnb or your hotel?
I never cook it at Airbnb. I'm done with Airbnbs. Why am I paying you a cleaning fee if I have to clean? Then what's the cleaning fee for? It's a scam. I hate Airbnbs. They're always
You're living the
disgusting.
hotel life.
I'm living the hotel life. So I'm eating out every meal.
Okay. So this is 4 days. What did we say? 3 days?
Yeah. You
3?
probably spend
So let's-
what? I'm not like the most like decadent eater or anything. I don't know.
What do you think that tab says when you walk away
Probably
from
like-
that lunch or dinner?
Lunch, probably $20, $25.
Okay.
Dinner, we'll probably say 40 to 50.
So you want to average at 35?
Yeah, it's probably like 110 a day, maybe.
Okay. And you're traveling a little bit, so it's let's say 3.5 days.
Yeah.
Okay. Groceries? We're not
None.
buying groceries, right?
I guess
Zero.
I like having a bottle of water in the room, but that's about
Experiences. Do you do experiences when you go to places?
it. Sure. I hope to.
Hope to. Do you want to give yourself a little money for that? You're doing great on this budget so far.
Wow. I do like experiences. I don't know. What is that? Probably like 200 maybe?
Shopping? Do you shop when you go to
Not
trips?
a
We went to New
big
Mexico. A lot of
shopper.
people buying turquoise. Like if you do that.
You call me a cliche.
I
get some
it's that's where you
crystals
get your.
while
It'd be weird to
there.
get turquoise in Minneapolis. It's like you
Oh,
go
but
to
they
where
have
you go.
beautiful turquoise jewelry stores in Minneapolis. You're missing out. You laugh.
I know.
I'm not a huge shopper. When I went on my Star Trek cruise, I only bought one thing, and it was like license plate art, like a little thing made out of like different license plates to make a saying. And it says "toxic wife," and I thought that was really funny. And that was like, I think $10. So that was my big spend. I'm not a huge like souvenir
Gotcha.
person.
So what should we throw in there?
I don't know. Probably like $100 maybe.
Yeah.
The most I went to Dolly. We took for my last birthday in 2022, I guess it was. We went, the family and me and a couple friends, we all went to Dollywood.
Oh.
And I went really crazy. I bought 4 mugs.
Do you still have them, or was that?
Of course.
Okay.
No, I kept them for myself.
Turquoise.
Beautiful turquoise at Dollywood.
Okay, you got 100. You can buy some mugs, perhaps. Gifts. You buy gifts for people or yourself. I mean, you got mugs, but do you buy anything else?
Isn't that shopping for myself?
Well, sometimes people will be like, "Oh, I have to buy everybody a gift," or like, "I have to do this."
I maybe like buy like magnets for people. I don't go.
Okay, so 2,000 to 3,000 on magnets.
$2,000 to $3,000. Yeah. I spent a lot of money on magnets.
The whole refrigerator that they have.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't go crazy. I probably $50 at the most. Now I sound like a cheapskate. I also think nobody needs anything.
I think that's a great way. That is the area where people don't give as much, but I always like to just check in. Like it's just stuff. They didn't go to that place. Yeah. I had a Dracula magnet from a friend who went to, I think, Transylvania.
I would hope so.
Is
Not
Transylvania
Hawaii?
a real place, though?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know. But yeah, I got a Dracula magnet. And I really liked it because I think it's pretty unique.
Where's it now?
And some turquoise. I think it's still in the refrigerator, but my kids like to take all the magnets off every day, and then we just find them months
Scattered about.
Yes. Yeah, it's probably even buried. Pet sitter. Do you have any pets, Mark Rennie?
Nope.
So
Let
0.
them burn.
All right, we added the 300
I have a
to
plant.
that. Well, what are you going to do with that plant?
You know, it's pretty hardy. I've had it here for like 3 years. And it's doing fine. I just usually water it before I leave, and then it's fine.
Yeah, okay. So we're not going to hire a $200 a day plant sitter.
Should I? Maybe I should.
I don't know.
My financial advisor told me to hire those no expense when it came to plant sitters.
You're at 22,000, but we add that 15%. You're at 2,300.
So what should I spend more on? Is that what we're saying?
That's a good question. I think that's a
hotel,
valid question.
obviously.
I think hotel and flight, like having done hundreds of these now, I think that's an area. I think restaurant might be a little higher at some point. Like we always low because it's like you got to have breakfast, you have little snackies.
And I love room service. I don't know how you feel about room service.
Oh my gosh. I feel very uncomfortable with room service.
Why?
It's just, that's the decadence. You talked about the decadence
too
of
decadent?
the cruise. I feel like, because we didn't do delivery at all growing up in my house. Like my father will still not do delivery ever.
It's DiGiorno's.
So I think it's just too, I don't know how to think about it.
We never got like fast food as kids. Like fast food was like a treat when we were kids. Like we didn't have like, my parents were like good, like responsible in that. You know what I mean? That like, no, like, so when it's a treat or we never even had like, whenever there were like chips on the counter, that meant like company was coming.
That's how they told you. It was like a little signal.
Yeah.
Well, we could add more to your hotel when you're planning this, add more to your flight, and then also just you use capital. So this is a fun little thing at the bottom in yellow.
Oh.
How much you would
look at
cost you to
this.
save over instead of thinking, oh my God, this is 2,300, I got to save for it. But if you're ahead of the game enough, just use capital or another tool to put away 200 a month. Or 9 months, 250, or 6 months down the road, 385.
That's cool.
So you've got about a year. You could
I
put
got
away
over.
200
Yeah,
bucks.
my birthday's in October. I got 15 months.
Yeah, 15 months. That's probably like 170, 160 a month, and you've got it.
And I do
You don't
have
to worry about
some
any bills.
lotto scratchers that I have to cash in.
Oh, is that most of your...
So I think there's like a few free tickets here and then maybe $12. So I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, what about gambling? I guess where does gambling fall under?
I think it's great. I had another guest, David Hill, has a history of gambling in a pretty healthy way, and he also writes about gambling.
Okay.
Well, he does. He did it, and I think it could be scary for a lot of people. I think it's gambling is entertainment money. It just
Right.
You have to know how much you feel comfortable spending.
We got a budget.
Yeah, you have to build a budget for it and say like, yeah, because I actually went gambling just the other day with my mom and my uncle.
You went gambling?
We went to a casino. There's a casino that opened.
Thunder Valley?
You do know Northern California, Thunder Valley. We went to, it's in Elk Grove, if everybody's really on their Google Maps right now. I forgot what it was called, but it was the nicest building in California. It was like they're doing well.
Have you seen the Crystal Cathedral?
No.
Have you seen the Golden Gate Bridge? I guess that's technically not a building.
Yeah. It's not open for rent. It's not Airbnb.
No.
But yeah, I had $100 and I feel uncomfortable gambling. So I just did the blackjack and I did $1 every time. And
On a machine or a table?
Oh yeah. I can't talk to a casino guy. It's too much pressure to keep conversation going.
That's the thing. You don't have to. They don't care.
Oh,
They're perfectly fine if you're quiet.
Yeah.
Are you fine if you're quiet? Maybe that's the question.
Great question. I don't know. I might start asking, questions just like I do on this little podcast.
How much are you budgeting for vacation? You ask your blackjack dealer.
Bring my computer and say like, let's do a budget app.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say just think of it as entertainment. Just have a little bit of money squirreled away.
I was for a long time. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people, it's still something I struggle with is online shopping, and it's too easy to just click on things. I also had when I had my day job. I'm currently looking for a job. Anyone out there looking for a comedic writer? Let me know. I would sit on the computer all day at home. So it's like you're just inundated with things that are like, click me, buy this. And it's so easy to just click on things. So I would waste a lot of money on things I didn't really want or need, but just for the act of buying or like the thrill of having a package arrive at the house,
Yeah.
that kind, all the trappings of it. But once the thing arrived, like that thrill is immediately gone. So I came up with a trick to help me. I consider this like office magic in terms of like using office supplies to cast spells. Because if you've ever cast a spell, and I did once, I had a boyfriend who was into casting, like doing actual like magic rituals. It's just externalizing an intention. You know what I mean? That's all it is.
I love that.
That's all prayer is. That's all meditation is. You're just externalizing the internal. You're just making it. So this was what I did to curb my buying too many Blu-rays. I wrote on a Post-it in my office magic, this is me casting a spell, that just said, don't buy it. And I taped it to my monitor. And it really worked. I think I saved thousands of dollars by not buying, like looking at something like, ooh, this looks dumb and fun, stupid. I want this. Then wait a minute. Looking at that post, like, do I want this, or do I just want to buy something and have it like shipped to me?
Spot on.
And then because I have to remember, like, as soon as the thing shows up, the excitement is over. Mm-hmm. Unless it's something like you really truly want. There's also the trick of putting something in like the shopping cart, but waiting 24 hours.
Yeah.
And if you still want it, then go ahead. But most of the time you realize, I don't want this.
Yeah.
Like after the initial thrill, that excitement, it makes it too easy to just like click. Oh, I want this. I can with one click. Also, maybe turn off your one-click settings on Amazon.
Love it. Yeah.
I was make it a little more laborious. It's too easy. Maybe remove Amazon from your phone.
Well, you're playing my hits. Mark Rennie.
You've heard these before?
I'm a big fan of all these because it's creating a little distance. Because you're right, it's so easy. With Amazon, what's also nuts is that you can buy something for $7 with one click, but also $700, right? It's the same action. And it goes on a credit card, or it's like we don't even notice it. So that's really what it is. It's like they get you on $5 things, but then it's like easier to do 50 or 100 or all that. So creating that little boundary, that little barrier between you and buying is so helpful. So I love that you do that. And you still have the Post-it? Is it still there? or is it internalized?
It's internalized. I'm doing a lot better now. I also like make a stack in front of my TV of like, here's all the Blu-rays you have that you haven't watched yet.
So it's also...
So get through these before you buy another one.
Is Blu-rays where you put your money?
I'm a big fan of physical media, and I love watching movies, and I do it at home a lot, and I rewatch movies. I've seen Naked Gun twice in the last month. I'll probably watch Naked Gun 2.5 tonight.
I'm looking at my notes, Mark Rennie. What other things we want to talk about? But I think we covered a lot of great things.
Did we?
Anything else?
I hope so. I think there was... I tend to think of my financial life as before Dylan and after Dylan. So it really was a game because you made me confront. I was just living in ignorance for the most time with money of like, I just don't think about it. And then getting these jams. But I have to say, ever since seeing you, I haven't really been in like a jam like that. Where like I need to borrow money from my parents, essentially, is what a jam is. I'm fortunate enough to have that access, but it feels awful when you do it. You feel so small and diminished.
Yeah.
But, and I just said I'm turning 50 next year, anyway, but I haven't had to in years, and it's been great. Just, I'm also a pretty independent person, and it's just another area in which I've found independence and strength, and being able to rely on myself is a great feeling.
That's really great. I'm happy to hear that, Mark Rennie.
So you made me confront it.
You made it confront it, but also you did it. Like you wanted to do it. You wanted to do better. And I think it was also what I like to say is that I don't think it was that hard for you to make those changes. And I think people, before they work on money, they're like, oh my gosh, this is the mountain I have to achieve.
Right.
But also you were spending places you didn't love. And you were like, oh, it doesn't feel great to have a package come every week and not know what it is, or every day. So it's like you wanted to have savings. You wanted to go on a Palm Springs vacation. You wanted to go see Counselor Deanna Troy on a boat. And you just made those things happen.
Well, I think as you get older, like your priorities shift too. Like, no, it's like I'll actually remember the vacation I took this year as opposed to whatever dumb thing I bought from Arrow Video, you know, like the overly elaborate box set of Flash Gordon, which nobody needs. You know?
Thank you, Mark Rennie, for being on the podcast. I really enjoy seeing you, talking to you, and I appreciate you being honest about your feelings. And now you know you can go on your $3,000 vacation and get an extra platter of nachos.
Finally.
Even a nicer hotel, or get a nicer flight.
Great.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to plug? Can you tell me about what Mark Rennie's up to? That if people want more Mark Rennie in their life, how do they find you? What's your address? Do you have a podcast?
My personal address? I don't think there's any need for that. But you could find me. I'm just at Mark Rennie on all the things. I have a podcast called The Big Gay Movie Spreadsheet.
Ooh.
You got to go to patreon.com/BGMS, as in Big Gay Movie Spreadsheet. That rolls off the tongue. Why didn't I just do it patreon.com/Mark Rennie? I don't know, but it's too late now. But yeah, you could check that out where I have a bunch of great guests and we just talk about movies and then see how gay they are. That's all. Pretty straightforward stuff.
What is the last movie you did on the podcast?
Clue.
Ooh, how did that come down as how gay that movie is?
It's not
I love
gay.
Clue. Not
Very
that
campy,
gay?
but not that gay. Not really. Even though you got Michael McKean's character, Mr. Green, says he's gay. But then in the third ending, he says, I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife. Kind of undoes everything.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of strong, great, funny ladies, so that never hurts.
That's true. Does that movie hold up? Because that's 25, 30
Absolutely.
years old. Yeah. Yeah.
More than that. It's over 40 years, I think.
Yeah.
Like
you know, what's funny about that is
85.
also, that's one of the first IP movies, I feel like. Like that's a board game.
It was.
They
It still
turned
is.
in-
Yeah. Yeah.
But it seems hard to make board game movies, and they did it just fine.
They haven't done it since. I was also thinking like, because there's been like Monopoly movies in the works for a while, but I was thinking like, how do you make that fun? Because it's ultimately just about paying rent.
Yeah.
That's what Monopoly is.
Yeah.
And like, how do you make that a fun, zippy?
Or you're a
big
landlord.
screen-
There's not a
Yeah.
lot of friendly landlord movies, but maybe that's the niche.
Maybe there
we
should
need.
be.
Finally, help those landlords. Well, good. Great podcast, great friend, great person. I'm excited that you're saving up for that trip. I'm excited that you're getting all the DVDs you need and not the ones you don't need.
Thank you.
Mark Rennie.
That's important.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening, or subscribe on YouTube. Your rating means the world to us, especially as we launch this podcast baby into space. If you're interested in changing your money life for the better, if you want to feel good about spending money and save it at the same time, I'm here to help. You can schedule a free coffee conversation with me to discuss your money life. 100% off the air and confidential. We'll see how you can develop a better system for your money. For more information, head to my website, DylanTeachesFinance.com. A big thanks to our amazing producers, John DeBryan and Will Hagel, for making this podcast happen. I can't thank them enough. Thanks for listening. I'm Dylan Snowden. I'll see you next time